Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bold Wolf Gaming's ongoing D&D campaign, Winds of Earrenia. Sorry, I'm multitasking, can't talk and chew gum at the same time, apparently. Sorry about the late session. Wow, I am frozen. Alright, my audio's working, though, so I guess while I am fixing this, I will talk. We had to move to Saturday this week. Because my job does not understand the meaning of I am not available every other Friday after 7 p.m. So, we had to move it this week, but we will hopefully not run into that issue in the future. But we are ready to jump in for this week. Bear with me just a moment, I'm trying to figure out why this isn't working. I haven't had webcam problems in like 2 years. This week, this upcoming Thursday, we are going to be doing Fantasy Night with Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning. And that will be at the usual 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Deactivate when not showing. I can't figure out why I'm... Can't believe it's happening again.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
I may have to.
Noise. I put away all my D20s. I'm an idiot.
Did you ever restart the computer?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You look so serious, Frozen.
He's seriously frozen.
Mm-hmm.
But no, dude, seriously, I'm frozen. If I was any more frozen, you could call me Olaf.
Alright, bear with me just a moment here. Nope, didn't work.
Oh no. What the heck?
I think it's because the stream can only handle so much handsomeness at once, and I'm already here. So, I'm sorry, I apologize.
That is great, Ryan.
No, seriously though, you I think I just hit my 1 year Twitch affiliate. So I mean, we've been streaming for probably like in a year and a half, and you haven't had problems since probably about a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Video caption device. Wow, it is frozen in every sense of the word.
What the heck did you do?
I even re-added it as a source, and it's frozen there too.
What the fuck? You could always restart the computer again.
Not worth it. Just a second here. I'm gonna see if.
Put the Bold Wolf logo up.
This is substitution for my handsome face.
Hey, there's something.
There you go.
Just got to get it back in place.
I see green.
There we go.
Yeah, you're moving now.
I just got to get the green screen reactivated. Such a pain. No.
Matthew,
Color.
if that green screen was any more wrinkled, it'd be an 80-year-old man.
It's not wrinkled. It's just not. I have nothing to like hold it straight down.
You're using on that frame, the the backdrop frame with the PVC.
I actually have not been using that for a while. I have it hanging directly from the ceiling.
Ah.
It takes a
I was
little
going to say,
less
because there are
setup.
clamps that you could do to tighten it up on the PVC, but you're just letting it hang. I don't know what to tell you.
Let's see. Configure video.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are having technical difficulties. Here's Conway tweeting.
Hey, I'm just here with my lifetime license for XSplit. Its background removal has been beautiful for me. But you know what? I think Eric got a lifetime license too. If he's not using it, you should ask him for the password.
All right, we are back in business. All right, so as I said, this coming Thursday will be the next stream, and future Fridays we should not have a problem because I am simply calling off of work, requesting off of work, requesting every other Friday from now until the end of time, since they don't want to play fair. That's how we're going to do it. Rhino Gaming, any announcements from you?
Yes, actually. So I know I've been working on or having the dog kennel streams on Fridays, but we're changing things up. It's a bit too much work to get all that stuff compiled within a matter of hours after the close of business on Fridays. So I'm going to start doing those kennel streams and then some gaming on Monday nights. So Monday nights, probably around 8 or 9 o'clock, we're going to start doing a dog kennel availability stream of what's going to be available for adoption on Tuesday when the kennel opens up after the weekend. And yeah, starting this Monday.
All right, fantastic.
Matt, can I have a puppy?
I wish I could say yes, but
I know.
it's back where it belongs. All right, should be good. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. When we last left off, the regulators settling into Broken Shelf Prison began doing their recon, deciding that their first target before preparing for the prison break would be Guillermo. No, that's right, Guillermo. Why does it sound weird now that I'm saying it?
Because you're not saying it like Nandor. Guillermo.
Farrar and his drug operations. So while Malcolm was watching the patrol patterns around their secret stash, Zuko followed Guillermo as he went through a day in the life, learned where he was keeping his drug supply, and that he was getting very worried and frustrated about the dwindling supply since the shipment the night before was complicated by the fight between them and his crew. Also, Mira and Echo awkwardly tried to talk to the man that Guillermo was picking on, and could not come
Probably
to any.
best interaction of the whole campaign so far. Probably it was hilarious.
And attempted to seduce the man to get information out of him when they could have just simply told him they were working with Barfoth.
I am I prefer female.
All right, so we are off. We are starting on their second morning in prison. You awake. It is an average day. The weather has been pretty consistent, warm but crisp, sunny, and relatively dry. And the day is yours, regulators. How do you want to proceed?
So how long until breakfast?
An hour.
So maybe we should start off by making some plans for the day. After we have some breakfast. I personally am going to spend some time watching the guards in different points among the prison, trying to find out their routes they're taking and how long and intervals and everything they are for patrols, to plan ahead for a good point to or good times to do the various things we need to do to facilitate the breakout.
All right, so you're going to spend how long on that?
I mean, probably over the next several days. I would say probably like a week.
Okay, so if you could go ahead and write down for me, just so if I forget, you will remember. You'll be working on that until about the 17th.
17th. So did we, since we talked a little bit before the session started, have we gotten the word from Bartok yet that, or what's his name, Barfouth?
Barfoth Warhand.
Did he tell us how long it was going to take? Yeah.
So in game terms, he's estimating it will take about 3 or 4 weeks to carefully spread the rumor without outing himself and possibly getting you guys in trouble. So he doesn't know exactly how long it's going to take, but he figures there will be that he needs at least those 3 or 4 weeks to get a feel for the mood in the prison on the idea.
So we have some time to work with. So I'm going to be doing that with the guards. Zuko, how comfortable do you think you be for following Guillermo a little bit longer?
Yeah, that's fine.
And trying to get a sense of maybe when he's going to get another shipment or something.
Okay.
Because I think it'd be really good to topple him before he gets another shipment. So if we have another word of drugs coming in, probably want to hit him before then.
Right.
Plus, I'm not sure if you saw how many guards and stuff like that were at his stash of what he does have right now.
There are no guards.
No guards at all? Okay.
No, I could go in there whenever I want.
Oh, I don't think I put the wizard's doorknob. Or did I say I kept the wizard's doorknob? I can't remember.
You mentioned that we would have it.
Okay.
It can be sent to you whenever. You left it behind, though, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you brought it with you.
Yeah, we definitely want to get the wizard's doorknob, because the way I see it, that's probably the easiest way to take care of the drugs. Because you could just sneak in there, wizard's door, toss everything in, wizard's door closed, and they have no drugs anymore.
Yeah.
And there's no evidence of where the drugs went. Be a complete mystery.
True.
I like that plan.
All
Okay.
right.
The only problem I think is probably finding somewhere to hide the wizard's doorknob when we're not using it. So
I mean, you do still have access to a chest with your personal effects. Of course, the problem, as most, and this is the entire reason for the existence of the Torgris gang, you're not going to be sitting on top of it 24/7. If anybody gets curious and wants to go looking through and steal something.
what if we? I was gonna say, what if we leave it in the chest that it comes in with Lorimer, dropping our stuff off for us? But technically speaking, I guess somebody could potentially find the stash too. Would be highly unlikely, but
Right.
I don't know. That's what my plan is to do some guard patrol mapping, and Zuko, if you want to follow Guillermo.
Okay.
Ladies, do you want to seduce anybody else?
Maybe no offensive.
Oh, I think you guys were going to do the Fight Club, weren't you? I thought you guys
Yeah,
had
we
talked
were
about
gonna-
something
we were-
about going to the Fight Club and checking it out.
Yeah, we're
Yes.
gonna check it out.
All right. All right. So how are we going to break this up? Okay, Zuko. While you're following Guillermo, is there anything specific you want to be looking for? Details you want to pick up on this round? You got quite a bit the last time you went.
I mean, I think just generally following, and then just trying to see if he gets more and more on edge, and then maybe a potential rumor would be like, hey, he seems like he's slipping. He looks pretty fucking tired.
Also, maybe see if he interacts with any guards more than others, because that might be a tip off to some of the people there in his organization.
Oh,
True.
Zuko got a pretty good idea of what guards are in on
Okay.
his operation last time.
Wasn't there about 5 or 6 of them? 5 of them. Yeah.
I think you may be correct. It may have been about 5.
Yeah.
There's 12. I just checked my notes. About 12
12.
guards in total in Guillermo's Enterprise.
Okay, so I was right when I did the recap. I was thinking a dozen. All right. So Malcolm, you spend the next week doing this recon, watching the patrol patterns. Anytime you spend a lot of time around a key point, a cell block or a tower, a guard post, you get about the same arrangement. They've got it down to a science where just about any important point in the prison, any populous point in the prison, you're going to have about 3 overlapping patrols in about the same time patterns, maybe some variants. But by the end of this week, you do have you can pretty much plan out. You can set your watch by just about every patrol in the prison.
Got it.
Zuko, you continue following around. His daily routine is about the same. He actually starts to cool off a little bit. He's still upset about the loss of the original shipment, but he seems to be calming down about it a little bit because nothing else has gone wrong. And he feels like he can still make it. You do notice this time around, after a day or so following him, you start... you see him being approached by various prisoners that you haven't seen on previous days. Some of them very clearly addicted to various substances, pressuring him for whatever their drug of choice is, trying to get a break, whatever currency they're using to pay him for the drugs they are not able to acquire it at the moment, and they want more. Things like that, and almost invariably he is able to brush them off and direct one of his about a dozen paid-off guards to deal with the addict and continue about his day.
Okay.
So if he's getting comfortable, maybe now's the time to strike.
Yeah, I was thinking like maybe a couple bottles go missing. Nothing drastic.
Okay, so you want to start? You want to go to the stash when he's not there and take a look through what he's got, what you could.
Yeah, I'm not
Get
going to be
rid of it
looking
even-
for anything specific or anything to grab. Just, a couple of items totally different from each other, and then they just disappear.
All right, so you basically just want to open up some
You should do
chests.
that, like, you should do that like once a day for the whole week. Just
Oh my god, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Damn, why couldn't it have been 12? All right, so you're doing this for a week. Look at the calendar here. Now, do you start that immediately after in this week, or do you wait a few days and you realize he's starting to cool off and decide to
I
do it
would
later
say
in
I
the week?
wait a couple of days, and once he starts accepting what it is and he cools off, then I've got to like put panic mode back in. Like,
It's
take
gonna
one.
be funny.
All right, so starting on like the 14th.
Sure.
All right, so on the 14th, you decide to snatch something from his stash while he's not there. Pull the list up.
pour one for his homies.
All right, so let's see, where's the D12? Actually, you know what? I'll have you roll it. Roll 1d12.
Just a moment.
Why am I rolling it? You're the one who's throwing chance at this.
9.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh. All right. So the first drug you decide to steal from his stash is a bright yellow / orange liquid, naturally incandescent, as if it was a liquefied ray of sunshine. Let's see. Would you recognize it? I mean, do you care if you recognize it, or are you just going to pocket it?
Well, so I think the goal would be is to put it in our chest towards the end of the night.
Mm-hmm.
So then just kind of like let them know, hey, there's going to be potions arriving sporadically. Just take them and set them off to the side. Like, don't drink them. Don't do anything. They're drugs. We're inciting a riot. Just be cool. Cool.
All right.
I kind of
So-
feel like Lorimer rides the dragon. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, there might be some things on here that he might occasionally partake in. Some of them probably not, though.
Is this
you want-
is this Felix Felicius?
Felix Felicius?
Yeah, from Harry Potter. Liquid Luck.
No, not this one. Look, so yeah, there's a mix of drugs in his stash. There's fairly common, not really that hard drugs that at most of them aren't even illicit. They just don't belong in the prison.
Yeah.
There's some harder stuff, and then there's some stuff that is super hard and no one gets a hold of it without being involved with some really shady characters, and you just picked up one of those.
Cool.
So Zuko just grabbed something really hard.
Yeah,
That's what she
something.
said.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
something very, very dangerous and very expensive. All right, so day 2. Yeah, we start on the 14th, 15th. Roll a d12.
Four.
4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Second day, you end up taking a small chest full of tea bags, and this you
teabagged
actually.
him.
This one you actually recognize. It's one of the very common, not that big of a deal drugs. It's called weirdling tea. When steeped in hot water, it changes color from orange to blue. And when you drink, this is of course, essentially you see the effect of a roll on the wild magic table. However, it is just an illusion. So it is an entertaining drug, but not very addictive, and not, bad for your health at the end of the day.
So on the third day, do I notice any changes with him? Is he freaking out? Has he noticed yet?
You've taken one vial and a small chest. He notices something's off, and he's looking at some of the people that are with him a little bit suspiciously, but he hasn't outwardly said anything. You get the roll an insight check.
Let's see here. Oh wow, okay. 11.
11. You get the impression that he suspects something is off, but he also is willing to believe that maybe he just hasn't been keeping a very good count. Not enough has disappeared for him to be like, yeah, somebody's stealing from me.
Alright, I continue on day 3.
Alright, roll d12.
While he's rolling that, I can't cast any spells, correct? Like they put something on me where I can't cast spells?
Correct.
Damn it.
I rolled an 11.
11. You decide to peek through a kind of segregated chest off to the side, not overly large, and there's about 4 bottles of. Hold on, let me look at the description on this. You've never seen him distribute this to anybody, which is why it grabbed your curiosity. And it's a dark red potion, kind of brackish looking, in a cylindrical bottle. It doesn't look particularly magical, but you do recognize it as something called red thyme. Thyme like the spice. And it is known as hate in a bottle or bone hurting juice. And it's an extremely gross, unpleasant potion. It's not so much a drug. Not anybody in their right mind would ever take it for fun. It is used by assassins and political instigators because essentially it makes anybody who drinks it extremely violent.
Is it by chance what I may have tasted which will cause me to eventually Hulk out?
No, that was Monster Maker.
Similar concepts, but this one doesn't like swell up your brain and stuff like that. It just it's like roid rage in a can.
Okay, and you said there were 4. How many So I just take one. I'm assuming I just take one.
It's up to you. If you recognize it immediately, you can decide what.
Why don't I take one?
Oh boy.
Okay. All right, we've done 3 days, right?
Yeah.
15th and 16th.
And then into the 4th, do I notice anything with him?
Yes, on the 17th, he again is looking kind of suspicious. He's wondering if he's correct that things are going missing, and he decides to look at that chest when everybody else is filing out after he's distributed the rest of the stuff, and he notices the missing bottle. And you can tell he definitely thinks somebody's screwing him over. And this one seems to have him particularly panicked.
Okay.
Gee, I wonder why.
Which you can guess, because again, it's not so much a recreational drug as it is a way to get people in trouble. You sneak it into alcohol and get somebody to start pissing people off.
Oh man. So okay. I should tell Malcolm because he did really good in the last fight. He should almost antagonize a fight and get someone like kind of on his radar where he thinks that it's him.
That's an option.
I have an even better idea, Zuko.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
But I figure we'll let the ladies have their week first before we go further in time with our stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, what you want to be doing during this week?
Didn't we say what we wanted to do this week?
I may have, while I was talking about all that, forgot what you guys had planned. What do you want to do?
I think we were gonna try and see the fighter thing.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
we're gonna
yes.
go into the
Okay,
Fight
yep.
Club. Yeah, we're gonna
They-
we're
they-
gonna
they-
look into it.
They just broke the first rule. Don't talk about Fight
Talk
Club.
about Fight Club.
Oh,
Not our fight club.
not our Fight Club. We don't care. We break the rules.
You do some asking around, and you find out that it is held twice a week. Bear with me just a moment. Let's switch over to the map here. It is held twice a week in the kind of side cavern over here on the right-hand side. Oh my goodness, my camera's still frozen over here. But you can make arrangements. There are several different kinds of currency you can get to come as an audience member. Arrangements will be made to have your cell open so you can sneak over and watch the fights. So there, over the course of this, there's one on the 14th and one on the 16th. You guys want to come to the first or the second one?
What do you think,
I'm
Susie?
pretty. I mean, I
The second
personally am
one.
pretty. I was gonna say I'd like to go to the second one with them actually if they've done the investigation to find out when it is.
All right, so let's see how we want to do this. I said there are several kinds of forms of currency within the prison. In this case, it isn't much help to arrange money to be moved around on the outside of the prison. You've got to have something that's useful inside. Getting your hands on alcohol, drugs, good food.
We have drugs.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could have given them something with something you got from the first 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe the second day. The second day was just the run-of-the-mill stuff, tea, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give out anything that's more volatile than that.
Yeah, without.
You know, or you could just
throwing
cause
your flag.
chaos and give them what you got on the third day.
There we go.
True.
No, I'll give it to you guys, and you join the fight club.
Fuck you, no.
All right, so you guys take the tea, use the tea as payment.
Yeah, we spilled the tea.
Yeah.
All right, that since it is actually a decent quantity and will spread out, is actually pretty good bartering. I'm not even gonna have you roll for anything. All of you are invited to attend. All of you that want to go, anyway. So on the 16th, you all see somebody approach the outside of your cell door. Well, after it has been locked, they unlock the cell and invite the four of you out and lead you over to this those eastern. Actually, I guess they'd be western technically, given the orientation of the prison, but over to the right-hand side cell blocks, and you find that entire section of the prison, including the guard tower and all the guards in it, are in on it and happy about the entire situation. It's boisterous, it's loud. It's amazing that this is going unnoticed. In fact, you figure it probably can't be. Every guard in the prison has to know that this is happening. But there is a fight pit set up at the base of the guard tower, and the ledges outside of all the cell blocks in that area are all packed with people. The event goes on for about 3 hours total, and the majority of it seems to be arranged fights between veterans of the club. And towards the end of the event, they start letting people from the audience have the opportunity to, join in and fight one of the champions, which usually doesn't end too well. But running the entire thing is, let's see here, Vili Sogard, the guard that originally seemed to have a lot of interest in Mira, but lost it after that fight, in which she couldn't seem to land a hit. And when
My price fudged.
the energy in the crowd starts to die down, people seem to be starting to lose interest. You see he signals one of the other guards to bring somebody from just outside of view. They are shackled. They are somebody who clearly is not there of their own will. They do seem pretty bulky. They look like a pretty decent fighter, but it looks like they are somebody that he handpicked to participate in this fight. And while he is pretty, like I said, pretty built and looks like he can handle himself, he gets thrown into the ring and going up against one of their best regular fighters, is beaten nearly within an inch of his life. Severely injured and has to be dragged out of the pit by the end of the fight. And at that point, the crowd disperses and everybody starts heading back to their cell blocks. So that is how the Fight Club generally goes.
Yuck.
I'm not a big fan of this guy.
No. Did you freeze again?
Nope, I'm just trying to replace the old camera.
Oh, okay.
So, that if there's nothing else, that brings us to
The 17th.
17th. So you have all completed your continued recon. Oh, by the way, Zuko, there it was discussion during that last day with some of his associates, some of the guards, about well, there hasn't been a new shipment coming in, trying to make another attempt at getting into the gatehouse and grabbing what was left in the basement during the previous missed shipment.
Basement.
Yeah, yes, the basement of the gatehouse. Remember, they have that stash has a secret tunnel that leads into the basement of the gatehouse, where the drugs are mixed in with the regular supplies.
Gotcha.
And you got the impression he's not sure that they would be able to do the full shindig they usually do. They would have to quickly grab what they can, and they wouldn't get everything. And some of it will be no good anymore anyway. So they're just going to try to bolster their supply. Of course, this entire time he's very nervous about having this conversation because it seems like somebody within his group might be betraying him.
Okay.
He did not specify a date yet, but it is being discussed.
Well, hopefully this next part really ramps things up a little bit.
Should I try to steal another thing?
Well, we're on the 17th, so let's talk about plans from here.
Okay.
Matt,
Yes.
how obvious would it be if I took off the things that stopped me from casting spells? Like, how often are we around guards that really would notice that they're not on me anymore?
That would be hard to tell who's taken note of the fact that you have them. There's a lot of prisoners, so some of the guards may not know everybody who in the prison who is capable of using magic. But go ahead and roll a general, call it an intelligence check as you're analyzing the cuffs.
That was gonna be my next thing. Would there be some kind of alarm or something if I were somehow to get them open?
Yeah, go ahead and roll an intelligence check.
Intelligence. I don't add anything to it. I don't think. Nope. So 17 total.
17. Examining them, you get the impression that the cuffs work entirely off of rune magic. The runes are completed by the closing of the cuffs. And you don't get the impression it does anything besides create a small anti-magic field that's just large enough to cover you. So you get the impression if you were able to separate them enough, you could keep the cuffs on. Just as long as the runes are not complete, they would no longer deactivate your magic.
Do they both have to be closed in order for the anti-magic field to be on me? Or just
Both seem to be they're two separate cuffs. They both seem to be identical. So you get the impression that each of them is covering about half of your body in an anti-magic field.
Okay.
But you don't see any obvious indication of something that would set off an alarm or anything like that.
Let's roll the dice. Chime of opening. I can point it at an object within 120 feet of me that can be opened, such as a door, lid, or lock. And if I strike it, the lock will open. Will it work on these bracelets?
So you try it?
Yes.
Unfortunately, you wasted a charge because the anti-magic field includes the cuffs themselves.
Son of a bitch.
They can't really be affected by a spell.
What if
So, I mean,
somebody else had done it though?
No, because the magic spell, an anti-magic field works like people can't even cast a spell on me right now.
Oh, okay.
Is the way
Gotcha.
anti-magic fields work. So,
Okay, thank you.
like, even if I was dead bleeding on the ground, you couldn't heal me.
Jesus. Yeah.
So yeah, a spell can't be cast on them to remove them.
Okay. What?
Because here's my plan. I have the ability as a cantrip, called Thaumaturgy. What that allows me to do is any creature within range, I can create noises and sounds, and one of them is ominous whispers. So my thought process is to just keep whispers going on around Guillermo just all fucking day.
Oh my god, that's great.
But in order to do that, I need
You
these
need to
bracelets
take the
off.
cuffs off. Yeah.
So what do you want to do?
Do we have any kind of metal or something we can try to pry them open?
We can look around.
Roll an investigation check.
Me?
Well, mine sucked, so
What'd you get?
a 2.
Oh, yeah, you can't seem to find anything in the prison cell that would help you out here.
Oh, that's me,
I'm
guys.
gonna look. I'm gonna look around just to try and see if I can help him out. If that's okay with you.
Okay.
You said investigation.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pour myself some more tea while you're doing that. I have my headphones on, I can hear.
Five.
You also do not find anything in the prison that would suffice. An examination of the
funny? It almost landed on 17, and then it went to 3.
I would also like to help search.
Okay, yeah, we can't triple up like that.
I'm just gonna look at Barfowl and be like, dude, can somebody help me get these damn things off?
He takes a look at him. Honestly, I think a run-of-the-mill lockpick would do you best. I can't think of where you would acquire them in here, but you seem to be able to acquire things that nobody should be able to get their hands on.
I write in the scroll a message to leave a fucking thieves' tools package.
Alright, it is done.
You say the
on
word puppy?
Oh, I don't know, bloody? Leave me a bloody thing of thieves' tools.
You get a message back from Lorimer before the end of the evening. I don't know what I did to upset you, but okay, it'll be done. And on the 18th,
It's not you, it's me.
he said,
It's funny because I did look for investigation and I did get better than both Malcolm and
I knew Matt wasn't gonna allow a third check though. So
Yeah. I had to kill that habit when we had a 7-person party because anything could be passed just by everybody doing it. So you are able to very easily, they're not mechanically complicated, you are able to get them unlocked. And interestingly enough, trying to keep them closed but not properly closed is a little bit difficult. They fit a little awkwardly now because being magic themselves, they resize to fit the user when they're active. So with them disconnected, they don't fit as snugly as they should. So you'll have to be careful to make sure, it's not obvious they're not fitting you properly when you're around guards. But otherwise, you now have access to your magic again.
Awesome. So I'm not going to be. I'm going to try to blend in and not be noticeable around Guillermo, but I'm going to stay within range of my thaumaturgy, hopefully, as much as I can, and just throw ominous whispers around him all the time.
Would I still be following him at this point?
If you want to be.
Or could I, like, let Malcolm borrow the ring?
Does the ring require attunement?
Ooh.
I think it does.
Let's see here. Yes, it does.
But attunement only takes an hour, right?
Checking your character sheet.
It doesn't say specifically on my card.
I think it's the same thing for everything.
Yeah, it just says requires attunement.
Short rest.
Oh yeah, so that's not too long. You'd have to reattune to it.
How long would you need it for?
I don't know, maybe I follow him around for a day?
Day or two?
Yeah.
Okay.
They give it back to you?
Yeah. The entire purpose of attunement is basically so that you can't pass the magic item around and everybody get the benefits within like a combat or something like that. So yeah, just have to spend a short rest. Like for example, Mira's amulet that keeps her from dying all the way. You wouldn't want people passing that around during a combat. Oh, I'm dying. All right, take the necklace.
Yeah, I did make that mistake though when we were fighting Baba Yaga because I didn't realize it needed attunement.
Yes, and I think it didn't even occur to me, so I just let it go. But yeah, so that's it. All right, so you spend the 18th. Are you doing 1 or 2 days?
We'll do 2 days.
What the hell?
All right, so you spend the 18th and the 19th following him around, creating the sensation of whispers. Side note, today is the day that the Holy Regulators ship is done.
Oh,
So as we speak,
And I'm not making big help to having sausage.
Duskchin will be going down to pick up the ship for the Regulators. For the Holy Regulators, anyway.
Yeah.
awesome.
Alright, so yes, your use of thaumaturgy gets him, he's growing more and more paranoid. You notice he is having a lot less conversations with some people within his circle. You're getting an impression of a handful of people he explicitly trusts, or at least more so than others, and is less likely to believe that they are stabbing you in the back.
I want to steal something from his stash as well and place it on one of the peoples that he trusts.
Okay, do you want to look for something specific?
Like in their cot?
No, I wouldn't say anything specific. I think
Okay.
really anything being stolen from him right now is liable to make him freak the hell out.
Alright, so you want to grab at random, like,
Yeah.
super good. Alright, roll a d12.
I'm just going to roll it digitally because I do not feel like searching for one. 10.
10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ooh. Okay, this one, while not commonplace, you do immediately recognize. It is an iridescent white powder, commonly used by performers, extremely expensive, and the people who import it are generally very dangerous, unsavory folks. So this, it's known as sharp sugar. And this is a sign that Guillermo is, probably even before he was put in prison for desertion, was probably in bed with some unsavory types.
Gotcha.
But you find a large like pouch of it. That it seems to be the pouch. He separates it from there. This is the bulk of his supply of this particular drug.
And what did you say the drug did exactly?
So it's popular among performers. It gives them a boost of energy, relieves one level of exhaustion, gives advantage on perception checks, and add 5 to your movement speed. User becomes jittery. Usually either snorted or smoked from a pipe. It's essentially magical meth.
I was gonna say that sounds like the fucking Adderall I take.
Made out of a rare plant that grows only on the southern coasts. The gangs that import it are incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, it's speed.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna keep some of it for myself, but
You steal the whole sack?
So you said this is the bulk of what he has?
Yeah, this is the bag he uses to separate into smaller doses for the people who can afford it.
How heavy is the bag? Like, I mean, it's not. I'm not gonna be like having trouble carrying it, am I?
People get this stuff in like sugar pack sized doses of like 5 to 10 at a time. So his whole supply at the moment probably weighs about 2 pounds.
Terrible then.
What's that?
That's not terrible then.
No, and it's I mean it's like the size of like a coin, the coin purse you'd carry when you weren't in prison, which a small sack.
See, I wanted to plant this on one of his people, but I don't know if I want to put the whole sack on somebody. Maybe just like.
Well, you also know where these people. Having followed them for a week, Zuko can tell you where most of his inner circle, where they sleep.
So I can
Yeah,
leave like
about a couple of them.
So I can leave like some powder residue or something somewhere around where their living quarters are, and Guillermo will probably pick up on it.
Yep. Well, there's several options of how you could tip him off if they have it.
Are you able to like drug them?
What's that?
Ooh, that is a good idea. I'm gonna leave some powder in the living quarters of one of the people he actually trusts, and I'm going to try to slip some in one of their drinks, in the same guy's drink.
Okay, so he's showing signs of being under the influence of it.
Yeah.
All right. All right, so you do this on the 19th. Well, okay, so you steal it on the 19th. Are you going to try to slip it into the guy's?
No, not the same night, probably, because I think probably I stole it probably closer after like dinner or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to. I'd want to do it. It's probably gonna be easier to spike something when they're eating or something. I'm assuming.
Correct. And are you? Let's see. Are you doing it before or after he goes to his daily trip to the stash?
I would steal it after his deal. Oh, no, I'd try to steal it before his daily trip to the stash.
Well, you're stealing on the 19th later in the evening, so
Okay.
he's already been there for the day. I was talking about the next day. Are you going to plant it in the guy's personal space before? Okay, before. All right.
I'm not planting all of it, just some of the powder, so it looks like, he had some there and did something with it.
Okay.
So I don't want him to then take the drugs back.
Makes sense. Oh, that would have been so much fun, though. You would have gotten to see how psycho this guy is. I
mean, he should already be psycho because this guy stole it.
Yeah,
but he doesn't have it. He doesn't know where it is still.
He would have dealt with it in a creative way, though, if he had left it behind. So, all right. So
like
on
Gustav, like Gustav Fring, like Fring
that level of crazy, yeah. All right. So on the 20th, you're doing the food bit at breakfast, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, well, I would say probably when we got back to the camp after planting it, I would give the ring back to Zuko.
Mm-hmm.
So he could attune to it while we're going back to sleep, because I don't need it anymore, I don't think. I think with the whispers for 2 days straight, I think he's probably pretty on edge.
Okay.
And then I'll give Zuko the packet to a small little bit to try to lace the guy's food with.
Okay. So we get to breakfast on the 20th. Zuko, I'm still going to need you to make a sleight of hand check.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Well, I guess, does he at least have advantage since he's invisible? Or...
Yeah, I'll give you advantage because you can't be seen. It's one of those things where, like, yes, you're invisible, but doesn't mean everything you do is going to be impossible to be noticed. Or maybe
I should just do it. I mean, I have +9 to sleight of hand. What do you have?
I rolled twice. The first one was a 9 plus my dexterity, and the second one was a nat 20.
Okay.
Nice. So that's a total of...
So because he's invisible, he automatically sees everything.
What was the total?
Nat 20.
24.
Nat 20. 24. Okay, good. So you easily managed to slip it into his morning drink. It is completely diluted and invisible by the time he goes to take a swig from it. And you notice by the end of breakfast, he is very fidgety. He's tapping his fingers a lot. Anybody who's paying attention can tell something's off with him. And he gets picked up by Guillermo for their daily rounds. They go to the stash. And Guillermo very quickly notices that the sack is missing. He starts freaking out, ripping open chests, trying to find this bag. He is screaming at the top of his lungs, walking in circles, flipping stuff around, throwing accusations at random people within the stash there, which still includes some people that aren't on his top trusted list. He does look suspiciously at the man that you planted the stuff on. Where did you hide the residue exactly?
So I'm not sure exactly how I'm not entirely sure how the like living quarters are laid out. I'm sure there's like some kind of flat surface that he could have like it on or something. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, there's. I mean, generally the cells have about 6 beds, each with essentially an end table, and under that end table is usually a chest where they keep their personal effects.
Yeah, so I would say I would love some residue on the end table and like right, like by the chest.
Okay. So he does cast a suspicious glance at the guy who's acting all jittery, but he doesn't seem to be ready to believe it just yet. That day gets completely derailed, though. He does not distribute anything. He is having a lot of angry conversations with some of the guards that he has in his circle, most of which do not take nicely to him getting nasty with them.
Which is exactly what we want.
Yeah, we want his organization to crumble from the inside. So,
but he does not, during the course of this day, make any effort to go search this guy's where this guy stays.
so do we see them again at dinner?
I mean, you can. They eat, over by their cell block. But if you want to be,
So this cantrip with the whispers, it just says ominous whispers. I can't specifically state what the whispers say, correct? It's just kind of in his ears.
let me take a look at. It's thaumaturgy, right?
Yeah.
I apologize for you guys losing me twice. My phone died and then went on my tablet and no one could hear me.
Oh, jeez. I was wondering why you were so quiet.
Yeah, my Bluetooth don't work on my tablet.
You're so weird.
I agree, and that's annoying. I managed to get it on the charger, but whatever you put on display, I'm not going to be able to see.
Because really, all I wanted the whispers to say is just like, check his book.
You know what? I'm going to rule that thaumaturgy does in fact allow you to throw your voice.
I would say, like, I don't want to do like a whole long ass drawn conversation. I don't think I would ever use it that way, because I don't feel like that's the intent of the spell. But like a small like whispery kind of thing, like 5 words or something would be reasonable. I think.
Or just the guy's name
Yeah.
while he's freaking out about who stole it.
Yeah. And I would just do that at dinner to try to push him to check the guy's space.
Do you want me to try to spike him again, but not as much?
I don't think we need to. I think he took no the first time.
Okay.
Alright, so you use thaumaturgy to kind of create these whispers that kind of points more in his direction. And that evening after dinner, Guillermo and a few of the other trusted people follow him to his bunk. And they do in fact find the suspicious powder on his bedside table. Guillermo starts freaking out, pushes him up against the wall, lifts him up by his shirt, and starts asking him why he would betray him, asking him where the stash is, and the man he's accusing swears that somebody must have planted it there. He doesn't have it, he doesn't know where it is.
Do we want to get a second one involved then?
I mean, I'm not sure how he would.
Like the next day, plant a little bit on their cot or whatever, and then spike their shit? Or spike both of their shit?
I mean, I guess we could try, I guess, but let's see how this plays out first.
Okay, wait a couple days.
The guy is mildly convincing. Guillermo doesn't seem to be able to figure out which side to fall on this, and they start tearing apart his stuff to try to find the bag. I assume one of you is following him invisibly to watch this.
Yeah, Zuko.
So they start tearing into his bed and stuff. Do you do anything?
I don't think there's anything I can do.
Did you have any other drugs still? Or did you send them into... Okay.
I sent them in.
See, I didn't want to leave the whole ass bag there. I don't have any other bag that I could have put it in.
But what if you go into this guy's cell daily and put it there?
But it's too late. They're already searching his shit.
Oh, okay.
I don't think there's anything I can do without becoming visible again.
True.
This is at the very beginning of the search. That's why I wanted to give you time to interject if you wanted to, if you had any ideas. They're starting on his bed.
I mean, I do still have the bag on me, but I'm not there. If I'm still at the place where they were having dinner, how close am I to the cell block?
About a 5-minute walk up on the second level.
You got no idea.
It's not within range of the earring of whisper, though, correct? So, like, Zuko couldn't tell me that what's happening.
What's the range on that?
500 feet?
500 feet.
Yeah, it could be 500 feet. As the crow flies, anyway.
Then I would, I'd reply back to him and have him meet me halfway to grab the bag and plant it up there.
Okay. Yeah, I think that could be pulled off. Need a sleight of hand check from Zuko to slip it somewhere they're going to find it without them seeing it go there.
Okay. 11.
And where are you planting it? That determines the DC. So you've got the bed, you've got the bedside table, there's a chest under the table. Like a kind of like a square chest.
It kind of depends on where everyone's attention is at.
Like at the moment they're tearing apart his mattress, essentially.
Ooh. So the thing is, if I go to put it in the chest, I don't want to set it on top, because then that's too fucking obvious.
There's also space behind it.
Maybe I'll slip it behind it, because I don't want to open it up and cause a creak, you know?
Right, makes sense. Good choice. All right, so they completely destroy this guy's mattress, and he's over there. I told you I don't have it, Guillermo. I wouldn't betray you like this. And they continue on. They turn the table over. They start going through the chest, dump it out. All of his personal effects flying out on the floor. And at that point, after they've lifted the chest, everybody stops. Silence falls over the cell block. Guillermo, after a few moments of staring at the sack sitting behind the chest, he goes over very quietly, gingerly, picks it up, looks at it, and you could tell, I mean, he's not even trying to hide it. The look on his face is not just anger, but betrayal, hurt. We've been working together for years. I never would have expected something like this from you. But they put us behind a wall. You start getting greedy. How many thousands of gold has your family gotten from my operation? Before and during our stay here. Guillermo, I don't know how it got there. And you can tell he's still got the jittery effect going on. He's having a very hard time keeping his voice steady. All right. I understand. Started tasting our products. Got hooked. It happens. I forgive you. I forgive you. And you know what's better? I'm going to make sure you have as much sharp sugar as you could possibly want. And he signals the other two men who are with him to push him against the wall. And Guillermo grabs him by the bottom of his chin and forces his mouth open, tilts his head back, and just starts dumping the powder down his throat. And there is, after he has dumped it all into his mouth and forced him to swallow it, they let him fall to the floor, and he seizes for a very long time until he stops, at which point you're assuming his heart probably exploded. And they leave him lying where he stopped moving.
So I'm assuming, Zuko, you're going to leave and tell us what happened?
Yeah.
Probably.
So we're going to head back to our sleeping area, and then Zuko is going to clue us in on what happened. And I'm going to be... I personally am going to feel somewhat guilty, but we had to do what we had to do to start to destabilize his regime in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he was. It's not like he was a good guy.
Right.
Okay. So as it comes to the close of the 20th, Malcolm has a sudden realization that none of his employees are getting paid today. And hoping they know he's good for it. And that is where we are going to go to break. We are going to go take a quick breather. We will back in about 10, and we will see you all then. And we're back. All right, so it is. Let's see, we'd be on the 21st. So this is the morning immediately after Guillermo's freak out, where he violently murdered one of his own. By the time you hit breakfast, rumors are already starting to get around the prison what happened and what Guillermo did. How do you want to proceed from here? More following of him, or...
I wonder if we should try to spread the rumor around a little bit more quickly. I don't know if the guards would take care of Guillermo for us, or if we're going to need his organization to take him out. You know what I mean?
One of the people you heard discussing it was a guard.
Does it sound like they're going to do something about it?
Prisoners killing it. Roll an insight check.
That's not any kind of insight whatsoever.
You don't catch any hint of plans of action in place at the time, but you can't be sure if you're just missing something or.
It was a 7 total, just for reference.
Yeah, he's the guard was talking very casually about it with a prisoner. Like prisoner had heard about it, talked to the guard about it. He's like, "Yeah, yep, this seems to be what happened." Poor guy's already being buried right as we speak. Wonder what made Guillermo freak out like that.
What do you guys think? Is there anything else we can do here in this situation?
I mean, he's already cracked, right?
He's cracked, but we need to push. We need to push somebody to take care of him because we can't really take care of him ourselves.
Right.
I mean, we could try and make him more paranoid and somewhat hostile towards a guard so that he'd eventually, like, attack them.
That's an interesting idea.
Oh, what? Damn it! You shouldn't have gave that potion away, Suko.
I mean, we could probably get it back.
Wait, what did he? Oh,
The potion that makes people violent.
yeah. Zuko said he's been putting those in the chest and having them sent back to Lorimer just to get him out of the prison.
Unless there's more of that stuff in the stash.
Well, there we go.
Or there was.
I wonder if he's going to have the stash under guard now.
Good question.
Well, the guy that he thought betrayed him died, so
True.
I wouldn't assume so. But
It's up to you, Zuko. If we can get another one of those potions, I mean, we could try to spike his drink or something with it.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so you going straight to the stash?
Yeah, but I'd be using my ring, obviously.
Okay. Anybody else putting anything else in motion while he's taking care of this?
I'm just gonna do like general ominous whispers, because I can do up to 3 at a time. So like all of his little people, So, all the people I can see that are part of his organization, just ominous whispers like crazy.
Okay. All right. So Zuko, you head to the stash. Malcolm, you're trying to stay in range of Guillermo. However, there's one issue. He doesn't leave his cell. He does not go to breakfast, lunch, or dinner. He stays on the day after having to kill one of his closest allies. He stays cooped up.
That's interesting.
He does leave his bed. If you go in there to take a peek at what he's doing, he does leave his bed. Does a lot of pacing, but he never crosses the threshold of his cell.
Huh.
But Zuko, you
Would it be-
successfully go and grab the red time. Sorry, go
Would
ahead.
it be
Cece.
unwise for someone to go talk to Guillermo?
Right? I was kind of thinking like the same thing. Be like, hey, what's up?
Because, like, my thought was, like,
The dude-
don't act suspicious, but, like, go kind of give him your condolences. Like, I could go just be like, I'm so sorry that you lost someone close to you.
Sounds so passive aggressive, though.
Yeah, well, when I say it like that, of course it does. I didn't mean it to come out passive aggressive.
Yeah, it's completely up to you and the rest of the crew.
Because maybe if someone, like, is able to, like, talk to him, and, like, make him feel, like, a little bit better, he'll come out of his cell.
Well, it may just take like a day or two for him to kind of work out of it too. We may not have to.
So, do you want to talk to him, or do you
talk
want
to
to
him.
wait and see what happens?
Let's wait and see what happens, and then if he doesn't, someone can, like, one of us can go talk to him.
Okay. So the next day, you find him actually coming out of his cell. He goes down to breakfast. He does not meet up with his usual crew, and the ones that do try to approach him, he sends them away. Who's following him? Trying to keep an eye on his actions. Is Zuko doing it
the one that-
invisibly?
Oh, wait, no.
Probably me.
Zuko? Yeah, Zuko.
Okay.
I believe that's Zuko, yeah.
Alright, so Zuko, you follow him around for the day, and again, he does not gather up his usual bunch. He does not have anybody guarding the stash when he goes to it. He does not have anybody going in with him. He goes and grabs what he needs, and he makes his own way around the prison, distributing the stuff that's been paid for. His day is slowed down quite a bit because he's doing this himself. He does stop along the way to have conversations with some of the guards that are in on it. And you do witness one heated conversation with a guard where they point out that what he's doing is going to make him Oh, hi, Eric. I don't know how long ago you sent that message. Just for this week. But anyway, there's a heated conversation with the guards about what he's doing, how it's exposing him, making it a lot more likely that somebody's going to catch on to what he's doing. which could lead back to them. He does end up talking some of the guards into helping him out with his route because he no longer trusts any of the fellow prisoners that helped his operation before. And you hear him discussing that he is going to go himself into the basement to grab what he can of the drugs that had already been delivered and are waiting there for him.
Should we try to frame him?
We'll be doing that the following night, the 23rd.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure how we could frame him. We have to find out what guards, or we have to go to a guard that's not part of his group and tip them off.
That would be hard to do.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be hard to tip them off, but it would be hard to get somebody to believe us, probably.
Right.
Mabel, don't you lick your... Stop it.
Okay, so he gets to his cell very late on the 22nd, having distributed the drugs that had been paid for. Some of the guards around the prison do not like how things are going. That is very obvious. And he plans the following night to go in and grab his stuff from the basement. How do you want to proceed?
So yeah, I think I feel like we have two options. Either we tip off the guards, or we ambush him and kill him there.
Interesting.
What about... So the tunnel that goes to this basement, is it like structurally sound, or is there a way we could trap him in the basement?
It's a natural cavern.
Damn it.
They just happened to build the gatehouse on top of it, essentially.
Gotcha.
I mean, I'm all for just killing him. Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, the thing is just how do we get out of our cell and go back in?
But all this cloak and dagger stuff has been so entertaining so far.
I mean, could we try to tip off a guard and then the backup plan B, we ambush him?
But it's kind of like the whole Draco Malfoy with turning Harry Potter in for going to Hagrid's hut. We don't want to be there because then they're gonna, you know, lump us
Take
in.
away points off Gryffindor.
Dang, yeah.
I say we just tip off a guard.
Yeah.
You'd having
And if
these
nothing
discussions.
happens, then we could like.
I don't know how
I
much
feel
you're
like maybe
including.
you could watch, and if nothing happens, then we could ambush.
True, we can ambush him on the way back.
Yeah.
How much are you including Barfouth in these discussions?
Oh, like he's there with us. So I mean, I would say that we're completely including him in the discussions.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
All right, so when you bring up tipping off a guard, he says he knows a few that are, what's the word I'm looking for? On the up and up enough that they would do something if they were informed when he was going to be going in there.
Okay, then I say we leave that to Barfouth because he's also been here long enough and probably has enough of a reputation in the prison.
Exactly.
Would believe him too, probably.
Yeah.
So if you leave him to his own devices. He before the end of the night of the 22nd, he goes and has a conversation with the guard, lets him know that word has been sent out that he will be coming into the basement and trying to bring illicit content into the contraband. That's the word I was looking for. Into the prison. And he believes it will be taken care of.
Easy enough, I guess.
Yep. All right, so we are on to the 23rd. Continuing to follow him?
Yeah.
All right.
While he's following him through the day, I'd like to write back and forth with Lorimer a little bit
Okay.
and see what kind of resources we can line up to negotiate with the Torgus gang with. Like maybe officer positions for people that willingly come into the army or something. I don't know.
Are you trying to hire them to protect your stuff in the process, or... Well, okay, all right, again, keeping in mind Barfoth is here for these conversations, one thing he he recommends is one good way to get the attention of the more powerful members of the gang is to hire them and impress them with the offer you're making. So if you were, for example, offering to arrange that some of their family members received a significant sum of money outside of the prison, it wouldn't be a low-level peon coming to discuss the deal with you.
So I'd do that too.
Okay. What kind of offer are you drifting under their nose to get their attention?
How much is a lot to these people? Do I get any kind of sense of that at all?
All right, so each gold piece is about $100. So, I mean, just like with us, you know, a few $1,000s would definitely get people's attention. So a few hundred gold would be significant.
Okay, yeah. Like 200 gold.
All right, so
Tree fitty.
all right, 350 gold for the member of the Torgus gang that is willing to keep your stuff under guard for over the course of the next 3 months with the option to renew.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Barfoth goes and finds some members of the Torgus gang and lets them know that you are interested in applying for protection with this offer, but you don't want just anybody guarding it. You want their best of the best, and you'll be waiting to hear contact from them. So that will take a day or two to go into effect. But Zuko, while you're following him, today's operations are definitely different. Guillermo is still is now leaning heavily on the guards to help him out. He is still goes into the stash alone, and he is carrying the stuff a pretty significant distance. But he is mostly getting it near the guard towers throughout the prison, where one of the guards that are in on it with him takes it from there and takes care of distribution. You do overhear a conversation between two of these guards while he is out of earshot. And one of them is aware that guards within the gatehouse know he is coming tonight.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
But they do not tell him.
Interesting.
They definitely seem concerned that he is definitely getting caught if he goes in there and grabs this stuff tonight. They are concerned about going down.
I was gonna say, what are you guys uh-ohing? I was in the other room. I'm like, what are you uh-ohing for? He's the one getting caught.
Oh, I think they were worried they were going to tip him off that he can't go in tonight.
Gotcha.
So he continues his operation until it is time to head back into the cells for the night, and you know that at some point during the night he is going to be let out of his cell, and he's going to be going down to the stash and going through the cavern to go into the basement of the gatehouse.
Are you gonna follow him, Zuko?
Why not?
Okay, so are you staying out of your cell, or are you unlocking your cell from the inside?
Ooh.
I mean, are the cells magical?
Yes.
I mean, they magically close.
Yeah.
But if you're wondering if your tuning fork thing works on them, it will. They're not high magic.
Oh no. I got the thieves' tools and undid my thing, so I'd rather just pick the lock if I can.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's easy enough. Roll a dexterity check.
Would I be proficient with those?
This particular part of the thieves' tools, yeah, I'll say yeah. You've picked enough locks in your time.
So 16.
Oh yeah, that's more than enough. All right. So Zuko, you're going out to follow him as he goes through this process of retrieving his drugs.
Yep.
Right. So you make your way over to his cell block, and you watch as one of the guards that is in on the process unlocks the cell for him and lets him out. Follows him towards the stash, and along the way, 2 more guards join in as they continue approaching the stash, which he seems a little bit thrown off by. And he says, I don't need an escort. I can get in and out. I won't grab everything. I'm just going to get a decent amount, the most popular stuff, and come back. I don't need anybody to come with me. Oh, that's alright. We're going to come guard the stash. Wait for you on the other side. Guillermo accepts this. And then 2 more guards join up by the time they reach the entrance to the stash. And they get to the entrance, and he turns around and is like, look, this is as far as you have to come. Just make sure there's nobody waiting here when I come out. They look at each other, give him a nod, and he heads into the stash. And they wait a beat, and then they start filing in after him. Do you follow?
Yes, but at a distance.
Okay. They file in behind him before as he comes out into the larger area where he keeps the drugs stashed. It takes a moment for the rest of them to file in behind him, and as he's just getting ready to go into the cavern on the other side to go towards the basement of the basement of the gatehouse. He turns around and sees they came in with him, and he doesn't know what to say at this point. He knows something's up. And he doesn't get to say anything as all of them pull out their weapons and they kill him right there in the stash.
Oh wow.
Oh, snap.
Damn.
They toss his body on top of the chests where he kept his supply, and you see one of them lights a torch and throws it onto the stash. All of them look a little bit split on the decision, but one of them seems to notice the morale change and takes the lead and says, "It wasn't worth it. He would have taken us down with him. Now the problem's solved. Nobody will even know what happened to him." They wait for the pile of wood to get a good blaze going, and begins engulfing his body, and they watch for a moment, and then they leave the stash.
Well. Shit.
One down, 3 to go, or 2 to go.
Yeah.
So, Zuko, what do you do?
I head back to my cell block and tell them, hey, this is what I'm seeing, or saw. Does it affect our plan at all?
I mean, we've been here, what, it's been what, like, I would say 10 days now, Matt?
You came in on the 10th. It is now the 23rd.
Okay, so 13 days?
Hmm.
I mean, that gives a lot of time, because I don't think anybody's gonna be able to get drugs anymore now. And the biggest part of this was to make sure we could get people detoxed and stuff to make a decision. And not have a bunch of addicts coming into the army, too.
Right.
True.
I think it's a good thing.
Okay.
Only 2 people had to die for it.
True.
So yeah. I think that's a good foundation and base for our plan being in motion, I think.
All right, perfect.
All right, so proceed to the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right, so it is the morning of the 24th. Guillermo is now dead. His operation is in shambles. The supply is destroyed, at least what was in the stash. Barfouth, knowing what happened, he makes contact with the guard, lets him know the reason that he didn't find anybody sneaking into the basement was because because Guillermo was killed. But he encourages him to try to find the drugs that are hidden among the supplies and get those taken care of.
Okay.
Which, by the end of the day, the guard checks back with Barfaust to let him know he was able to identify the drugs hidden among the supplies and reported them to the higher-ups. So the shipment that was waiting to be loaded into the stash is no longer there for any of Guillermo's remaining associates to grab. So it is unlikely anybody would be able to get another operation going anytime soon.
Good.
Oh, good.
However, it is just important to keep in your notes that Guillermo was connected to some bad people, so you never know.
But I mean, nobody could really tell it was really us that orchestrated all that.
That is
Right.
true. It would be very difficult for anybody to find out you guys were involved.
All that's really known is we got into a fight the first day we got in there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we still have a little bit of time tonight. So, what do you guys want to work on next?
I want to see maybe the Torgus guy comes.
Yes. So, you want to jump to when that happens?
Yes.
All right. So, it is about midday on the 25th when a group of about 5 people approach. And Malcolm, since you were the one who made the request, they ask you to, for you to step aside and have a conversation with them.
Okay.
So, again, kind of like a democratically run group, but one does seem to take the lead in the conversation. You're offering some...
Am I able to include Barfalf with me? Negotiations?
You can ask.
Yeah.
They seem to agree since he was the one that made the connection, and you are asking essentially for your cell block to be protected rather than just your individual stuff. So they figure that there's no problem with that.
And since we jumped, would I be able to have requested the Wizard's Door knob the night before?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been 2 days since I think you asked, so plenty of time to arrange that.
So yeah, that's the main thing I want protected.
All right. Well, look, nobody who doesn't belong in your cell block is going to get in there. You're offering an awful lot of money for what you're, to protect such a small area. You seem to be a pretty well-connected individual.
I throw a glance at Barfalf to see if maybe he knows this person, if I should go ahead with my plans of trying to negotiate their gang coming along with the breakout.
Okay, so you're having a sidebar conversation with him, trying to keep them from hearing it?
Not even necessarily a sidebar conversation, maybe just kind of like a look, like, hey, do you
Like
think
in How I
these
Met
guys
Your
are
Mother?
trustable?
I would test the waters. Don't offer up too much information until you know where they stand.
Okay, so I guess I would start off with, the money, although I am well connected, and I have plenty of money, was really to facilitate this conversation we're having right now.
He seems a little taken aback and then somewhat impressed. All right. I'm listening.
First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Malcolm Percival Boone.
Nice to meet you, Malcolm.
So I'm guessing that name means nothing to him.
You get the impression from his accent he is probably not from this side of the empire originally. Your renown is mostly within Palhas itself. So even in Freelos, your name hasn't spread quite that much yet.
Gotcha.
Bear with me just a moment. I'm trying to pull up my... Let's see. Let's give this guy a name.
Did he give this guy a name?
What about the other 4 people? Have any of them heard of me?
One of them does give a look of recognition. It's like, not like, oh, I know who this guy is, but more like, that sounds familiar. Let's go with... Sure, why not? Walter Carhart.
Walter Carhart?
Yep. And he is also Commander Second Class, like Barfouth was.
Okay. So I'm asking him if he's heard any rumors going around lately.
I've heard lots of rumors. Guillermo Ferrar shoved a whole 2 pounds of drugs down one of his friend's throats, bag and all. There's a guy in 35A who's supposedly sleeping with one of the guards. I don't know how much weight you can put it on that. And something about Jarl of Palhas is going rogue. Starting his own army to defend the territory that the Empire left unprotected. Any of those the one you're referring to?
I think as he said the third one, I just touched my nose like, bingo.
Alright, now you definitely have my attention. You know something about this?
Why did I want to go like Zirian from Dragon Prince? We don't understand Claudia.
First of all, if the Jarl of Palhas was planning this, how would you feel about it?
Well, I have a whole lot more respect for him than I do for the Emperor, that's for sure. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
Sure. What I want to do is not only protect my cell block, but protect the people of Palhas. And I'm just trying to wonder. I'm just trying to figure out how much it would cost for that kind of contract.
Roll a persuasion check.
Not great. 17.
Looks like his head's going to explode. He's trying to process what exactly is going on in this conversation. I mean, I guess my normal salary would be great, but what makes you think that he would want anything to do with us if he was forming this army?
So I glance at Barfouth again to see if I should just full on just open up the bag and throw the cat out of it.
Barfouth does an insight check on the guy. Well, son, sometimes you gotta know when to put your cards down on the table.
And I'm pretty sure I gave a scroll of messages to the Jarl, correct?
I believe
I
you
want to say
did.
that was one. Yeah. So I'm just going to pull out my scroll of message and I'm going to start writing to the Jarl on it.
Okay, what are you writing?
Hello, Jarl. Have head of the protection group in the prison with me. What do you have a moment to negotiate?
It takes a
While I'm
few.
doing that, I'm gonna tell them. I'm gonna tell Walter, like, hey, this is why I'm here.
The Jarl. It takes a few moments, but the Jarl eventually responds and asks you what exactly is it that we're negotiating. And he has this weird habit while using the scroll. Like, he doesn't quite understand the concept, so he always signs it like he's actually writing a letter. And so you see his signature appear there at the bottom of the message. Do you show that to Walter?
Yes.
His jaw drops a bit. Like, this, you're in contact with the Jarl.
I am. I was sent here by the Jarl to facilitate exactly what the rumor you're hearing about. We are to find out people that would be not only amenable to joining an army, but worthy of joining the army at the same time. And facilitating a breakout for all of us to safely rejoin.
All right, one more persuasion check.
One more, you said?
Yep.
Okay. Another 17.
All right. He hands
Oh, Ryan!
he hands the scroll back to you. Keep your money. Reason we're here. And he looks at Barthouth. Is because we weren't willing to walk away from our homes and leave them to Teresia or whoever else wanted to decide to take advantage of the situation. If this Jarl wants to take us back in if we get out of this prison, that's good enough for me. You tell me what I need to do to help. We can negotiate new salary when we get to that bridge.
That was easy.
Right?
Wow.
Not everyone in my little group here necessarily is going to be quite as easy. I'm not going to go around telling my entire gang what's going on here, but the group of us right here, I know I can speak for all of us when I say this is just something we want to do. And I bet you a lot of others in our group would join up as well.
So, the plan is to coordinate and facilitate a prison breakout. So we'll have to coordinate exactly when that's going to happen. I actually take off a portion of the scroll of message and give it to him.
All right. Make sure you write down. Yeah. I hope you're keeping a list of people who have it.
Yeah.
Because there's more than I can keep track of anymore. But
Walter Cronkite, Walter Carhart.
all right. Well, in the meantime, we'll make sure somebody is around your cell block at all times to keep your stuff under guard.
That works for me.
Oh, and I assume the deal for the 350 is still valid?
Yes, I will still get that sent out for protection.
All right.
For guarding our area here.
Well, that'll certainly help. Now I've got people all over the prison. I'll do some. I'll have some conversations. See who within the group I can trust with actually executing this plan. I mean, we get weapons into the hands of the prisoners and it all goes down, that's not going to be a problem, but you're going to need people who can have the weapons hidden and ready, or whatever other supplies we need to actually crack this thing open. I'll find as many people as I can that I think I can trust with the details on this.
Well, I'm also going to let him know that as of right now, our plan, and I hold up the wizard door that is the biggest thing that I'm going to have him guard. We're going to stash weapons here, and the night of the prison break, coordinate and have weapons dispersed from here. So people don't have to stash anything. We just have to coordinate meeting at one point before actually doing the thing.
He cocks his head. Have you gotten the chance to go around this place?
I have.
I mean, this is just coming from former second in command of a regiment. We're not going to want to launch all of this from one place. It'll make it a lot easier for them to cut us down.
Okay.
When it's time to crack this thing open, we're going to want chaos in every corner of this prison.
Well, I still think that we could probably stash everything here, and then, like, the day of, we can drop off things at drop-off points so they're not being stashed the entire time.
Oh, yes.
Waiting for somebody to
as close to go time as possible. I understand that, and I'll make sure I'll make arrangements on that too to see where the best place is to have this stuff ready to go before we're ready to let them know what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you stay in close contact with me and we'll make this happen. So you're sure the Jarl is willing to take us even though we refused our last orders?
Yeah, because you refused the last orders you were given were pretty much to march to your death.
Well, it wasn't our deaths we were concerned about, or at least on my part.
And actually, your undeaths, because if you guys had marched on Heim, that's they were supposed to march on Heim, right?
Yeah, that's where they were all being directed towards.
Yeah. You would have marched on Heim, died, and joined the undead army that's there right now.
All the same, my concern is I've got a lot of family here in Freelos province, and we've got uneasy acquaintances to the south, and who knows who else waiting for part of this empire to be left undefended. I'm worried what's already happened, since those of us that aren't in here are already on their way across the empire. The sooner we can get out of here and
Yes,
go back
the
to
Jarl will
protect.
definitely take you, and the Freelos, as long as I'm drawing breath, Freelos is protected. But I can't do it all by myself. We can't do it all by ourselves.
All right. Well, sounds like we better raise an army then.
So with this protection thing going on, do they hide stuff from the guards too?
They can if necessary. Yeah. I mean, the bare minimum is they keep somebody in view of your cell block at all times when you're not there, so that nobody can wander in and start rifling through your stuff, prisoner wise. Again, cell checks aren't really much of a thing. It's too much. They'd have to know there was something specifically that he wanted there to go through that trouble.
I'm just like wondering if I should like start bringing all my gear in, Although I could just put it all in the wizard store, actually.
Yeah, you can. In fact, you could send it back to Lorimer if you wanted and have him load up each of your guys' stuff in there to begin with.
I would say tonight I would want him to do that, load up all of our stuff so that we can be ready to gear up on a moment's notice if need be. And then I'll also message back the Jarl and say, "Okay, Boomer." No, I reply back to the Jarl, let him know that we actually no negotiation needed right now, actually, but do have a group of strong people hopefully join our cause. Just needed your name, more or less.
He replies, "Oh, well, glad I could help, and glad it's going well. Let me know when you have an idea of when this will be happening. We'll take care of things out here."
Will do. Malcolm out.
Alright, so you make the arrangements, you sneak in, or you or Zuko, I assume, sneaks the doorknob back to the chest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, isn't it the key that opens up the specific interdimensional space and not the doorknob itself? So if Lorimer has a key that's attuned to our doorknob, he wouldn't have to have the doorknob itself to go into that space.
Did you end up having him make a key?
We had planned about it.
Okay, alright, yeah.
About it.
It sounded familiar. I couldn't remember if you guys had actually arranged for him to do that. Yeah, he would have a key to it by now. So he could literally, as long as you guys don't have it open, he could do that from his end. All right, never mind on that. So you just let him know what you want in there. All right, so conclude day 25?
I would say yes. I mean, we really just have this Fight Club breakup, and that's it, I think.
Yeah, if you feel like it's worth going through the trouble for, yep. Just got to decide where you're getting all the weapons for all the prisoners and stuff like that.
There's the guardhouse. It's just a matter of getting there with the doorknob, and I kind of have a plan for that. So
cool.
Nice.
All right. So before we wrap up tonight, you guys all go to sleep for the night. Echo, how did the vision that you had affect your routine or your, if it did at all? Do you do anything differently now?
It made me a little bit more restless. Like I'm a little bit more like afraid to go into meditation.
All right. And rightfully so. Every night now, since that initial vision, you have found it even harder to get into that meditative state. You quite often find yourself breaking out of it, feeling like you have branches wrapping around your ankles or arms. You see flashes, though not quite as vividly as you did that night, flashes of the burning village, of the face that seemed to be your own but belonged to somebody else. Should probably change piece of gear. And most of the time, you've gotten upset with yourself as you shook yourself out of your meditation and realized it was just your imagination. For a while, you were beginning to wonder if you were bringing this all on yourself, if there was anything really to be concerned about. You tried to let yourself relax. And after a while, after what seems like wasted hours, you finally slip into your meditative trance again. You try to feel nothing, to see nothing, trying not to let yourself get lulled into that peaceful vision of sitting in the Fey Realm forest again, lest you be dragged into that vision. And for a long time there is nothing, there's darkness, your mind is simply shut off. And then there's a flash, and the sound of crackling wood, and the smell of ash and burning fills your nostrils. And you're once again dragged into that oh, I see. It's like, what are you guys doing? You're once again brought into that deep state of trance that you cannot seem to pull yourself out of. You open your eyes, and again you are standing in front of your burning home. But the flames aren't moving. The amber light that is shining on you seems constant instead of flickering. Yet the sound continues as if it was moving, as if the fire was blazing. And those two undead creatures stand in the doorway of your home, staring at you, frozen in time. But you know if it was moving, they would regard you for just a moment, before moving on as if you weren't important, or as if they were preserving you for some reason. Something you thought a lot about, but you were never able to figure out. It made you uncomfortable because you were afraid you wouldn't like the answer. And then, once again, you recognize your own voice in your ear. Why do you think they let you go? They destroyed and corrupted everyone else, but they ignored you. Why do you think that is? Do you respond?
No.
You hear the voice switch over to your other ear. You refuse to turn around to look at her, but you can feel her presence. And you can hear the snapping branch sound as she moves. I know why. I know why they looked at you and moved on. And I think deep down you do too. What is that?
It's her phone.
That's my phone going off.
Do you want me to tell you?
Um. I kind of just stutter out, like, I don't know.
You hear
No,
her
I
voice
don't know.
switches to the other ear again. I'll tell you anyway. You feel her wood branch-like hands grab your chin, keeping your eyes faced towards these two undead creatures. They walked away because they recognized themselves in you. And then she turns her head towards her, forcing you to look her in the eye. They recognized me. And that is where we are going to end our session.
What the hell?
All right, so
Oh, shit.
all right, things are picking up. So when we return on the 3rd, we should be ready to break out of the prison and start going back to some more classic Regulators adventures as we continue to accelerate towards the end of the campaign.
And I'm hoping to level up.
Oh yes, level up at the end of the prison arc, of course. That's the way it always works.
Yeah.
But that is it for us tonight. Don't forget, on Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, we will be doing Kingdoms of Amalur. Probably the last session of that until we move on to something else. Trying to keep it rotating, try to keep it fresh. So hope to see people there. Thank you everyone who's watched tonight and everyone who watches on VOD. Always appreciate you. We look forward to seeing you for the next session of D&D. Have a good night.